Hello and welcome. Our names are Shauna Bradfield and Andra Bell, and we are contributing educational consultants to Patton's multi-tiered system of support initiative. Today we will be learning about effective, evidence-based secondary literacy practices. The mission of Patton is to support the efforts and initiatives of the Bureau of Special Education and to build the capacity of local educational agencies to serve students who receive special education services. Our goal for each child is to ensure IEP teams begin with the general education setting with the use of supplementary aids and services before considering a more restrictive environment.
Pennsylvania's multi-tiered system of support is a standards-aligned comprehensive school improvement framework for enhancing both academic and behavioral health outcomes for all students. In Pennsylvania, response to intervention, or RTI, refers to the methodology that is used to determine how slow is slow and how low is low as an alternative to ability achievement discrepancy within the specific learning disability determination process. Pennsylvania's MTSS model represents an integrated system, meaning that cross-disciplinary teams use a problem-solving process to facilitate shared ownership for achieving academic and behavioral goals using a continuum of evidence-based practices and reliable and valid data sources. The academic side of MTSS, standards-aligned, high-quality core literacy, mathematics, and STEM instruction is delivered within the context of culturally responsive practices, positive behavioral supports, and family engagement. There are key components that form the foundation of PA's MTSS framework. If a well-articulated, well-designed tiered system is in place, schools should realize efficient, effective, and sustainable outcomes.
These are our learning intentions for this quick pick. First, we want practitioners to be aware of and able to implement a continuum of evidence-based literacy strategies. We also want to help teams further customize intervention using a problem-solving process. Lastly, we want to encourage middle and high schools to strategically enhance their tiered systems toward improved literacy outcomes for all students. The Institute of Education Sciences publishes practice guides in education in order to share the best available evidence and expertise in various content areas. Each practice guide is subjected to rigorous external peer review. Peer reviews determine whether the evidence cited in support of the recommendations is up to date and of high quality. The goal of this particular practice guide, written in August 2008, is to formulate specific and coherent evidence-based recommendations that educators can use to improve literacy levels among adolescents. We used this resource as one of our guidance documents to develop the information we will share with you today.
The Cedar Center released this innovation configuration in May 2015, which is located in their appendix. An innovation configuration is a tool that identifies and describes the major components of a practice or innovation, which in this case is evidence-based reading instruction for adolescents. The matrix is organized around two dimensions, essential components and degree of implementation. This is another resource that was used to inform the development of this quick pick. This is our agenda for today. First, we'll discuss word recognition and word study. We will then move on to the following topics: fluency, vocabulary, text comprehension, motivation and student engagement, teaching across the content areas, and assistive technology. Lastly, we will share how you can access additional resources.
Word study at the secondary level looks a bit different than in an elementary classroom. Secondary students need more work with the etymology of words, common meanings of roots, prefixes, and suffixes. They may study derivations of words. For struggling students, they may use their knowledge of syllable types and strategies to break apart large words into more manageable parts and analyze those parts to help predict meanings. Even though this was not included in the recommendations of the IES guide, it is highlighted in the Cedar Center as an essential component. We included it here because many students struggle with word reading skills and may need supplemental instruction in this area. We know from research that a significant number of struggling older readers are still having difficulty reading at the word level, and this impacts their comprehension. They may have the skills to read one-syllable words, but are intimidated by multisyllabic words, particularly because they do not know how to divide them into more manageable parts. These students benefit from advanced word study and word-attack strategy instruction. Please refer to handout number 1. Looking across the tiers, we want to make sure there is alignment in instruction. At Tier 1, students should have a working knowledge of syllable types, meanings of roots, prefixes, and suffixes, and if needed, have a common routine for breaking down multisyllabic words. Using this language, students and teachers can talk about words in this way across all content areas. At Tier 2, students may need more time with practicing a specific strategy for breaking down large words. This strategy could be used at all tiers. Students with Tier 2 support may require additional time with small group instruction and opportunities to practice and receive teacher feedback. We've listed some strategies here. Increasing support at Tier 3 will require a smaller teacher-student ratio and more opportunities to practice and respond with teacher feedback. Tier 3 support would also require additional time. Here are 2 video examples of strategies that can be used to help students with word recognition. Both of these are videos that explain the strategies, so you'll know how to implement these with your students if needed. We've included these on a Padlet, so you will have easy access to these links. We'll share this at the end of our presentation. The Cedar Center includes Fluency as its second essential component. Research has documented the relationship between fluency and comprehension. Readers who have achieved automaticity in word reading can channel their cognitive processes toward understanding what they are reading, rather than thinking about how to decode the words on a page. Fluent reading assists comprehension of text. Once students are accurate readers, they can improve their fluency by reading a wide variety of texts. Students who struggle with fluency may also be struggling with other reading issues, such as vocabulary, word recognition, or decoding. Poor fluency indicates the student is struggling with reading, but further assessment would be needed to find the true cause of their difficulty. If students are accurate readers but not automatic, here are some considerations. Is it automaticity difficulty at the word level? If so, that would highlight the need for continued work in phonics patterns. A diagnostic phonics assessment could be used to determine where to start. Or, is the automaticity difficulty at the language level? Language deficiencies often generalize across areas and may warrant further diagnostic inquiry and assessment. Individual and/or group-administered vocabulary, reading, and listening comprehension measures are often utilized when marked language deficiencies are suspected. Please refer to handout number 2. In Tier 1, students should be reading a wide variety of texts. In addition to core instructional practices, Tier 2 should employ more support from the teacher through the provision of specific corrective and timely feedback. Students should be empowered to monitor their own fluency development through goal setting. Tier 2 supports often represent opportunities for extended core instruction using grade level and/or content area material. Tier 3 supports and services afford students who are most at risk in reading with highly customized academic and behavioral supports matched to need, using more frequent assessment to both monitor and maximize student response. Here are 2 examples of classrooms working on fluency while reading. These will also be included on our Padlet created for this quick pick.
Vocabulary refers to knowledge of word meanings. Recommendation number 1 from the IES guide is to provide explicit vocabulary instruction both as part of reading and language arts classes and as part of content area classes such as science and social studies. The level of evidence for this recommendation is strong. The following are suggestions for how to carry out recommendation number 1. Teachers should dedicate a portion of the regular classroom lesson to explicit vocabulary instruction. They should also use repeated exposure to new words in multiple oral and written contexts and allow sufficient practice sessions. Additionally, give sufficient opportunities to use new vocabulary in a variety of contexts through activities such as discussion, writing, and extended reading. And provide students with strategies to make them independent vocabulary learners. We will talk about some of these strategies on the following slides. So why is vocabulary instruction important? Vocabulary supports comprehension, and in turn, the ability to read with comprehension helps to ensure school success. However, approximately 70% of students in middle and high school experience difficulties with these higher level skills. It is critical that schools implement school-wide strategies to raise the level of vocabulary across content areas. General education teachers in all content areas have multiple opportunities each school day to involve students in productive vocabulary learning. Additionally, students' vocabulary knowledge is highly predictive of their ability to comprehend and provide written responses to complex texts that they encounter at the secondary level. Please refer to handout number 3. A vocabulary instructional routine is helpful for both teachers and students. Archer and Hughes, 2011, develops a routine teachers can follow while teaching new words. It consists of the following 4 steps with options depending upon the word taught, the context, and student needs. Step 1. Introduce the word, i.e. pronunciation, decoding, and modeling. Step 2. Introduce the meaning of the word. Options include the following: provide a student-friendly explanation, guide students in analyzing the meaningful parts of the word, have students determine the critical attributes embedded in a glossary definition, and assist English language learners in recognizing cognates. Step 3. Illustrate with examples. Step 4. Check for understanding. This is an easy but very powerful strategy that teachers can add to their vocabulary instruction across the content areas. Please visit www.explicitinstruction.org for model lessons using this routine. You may also want to refer to the handout that we included as an example of a routine card for teaching the word reluctant. Please refer to handout number 4. Looking across the tiers, we want to make sure there is alignment in the instruction. At Tier 1, students should be engaged in explicit vocabulary instruction and read targeted vocabulary words in different contexts while being encouraged to use the words in their speaking and writing. Words should be connected to what students already know and build upon that knowledge. Additional strategies include the following: morphological analysis, use of graphic organizers, and employing strategies that will help students learn new words with deep understanding. With regard to morphological analysis, morphology refers to the study of the smallest units of meaning in the English language that include roots, prefixes, and suffixes. Research shows students with knowledge of morphology substantially increase their vocabulary breadth and depth. At Tier 2, students may need more time with practicing a specific strategy for learning vocabulary words through explicit and systematic vocabulary instruction. Additionally, they may require more teacher support in reading challenging or unknown words. At Tier 2, specific corrective feedback is crucial along with exposure to a higher level of vocabulary, even if they are a struggling reader. Increasing support at Tier 3 will require a smaller teacher-student ratio and more opportunities to practice and respond with teacher feedback. Tier 3 would also require additional time. Here are 4 examples of classrooms working on vocabulary at the secondary level. These will be included on our Padlet created for this quick pick. We also want to highlight word generation, a supplementary evidence-based resource for assisting all content area teachers with honing standards-aligned academic language skills and motivation and engagement among students in grades 4 through 8. Once you register on the Word Generation site, you will have access to all of their free materials and resources. Our Patent Literacy Initiative will be producing a quick pick on word generation that will provide you with greater detail. You can also visit our Word Generation Live Binder on the MTSS Initiative page at www.patent.net.
Text comprehension is a complex task which involves using multiple strategies: summarizing, self-questioning, text structure knowledge, inferencing, predicting, and comprehension monitoring. Employing these strategies before, during, and after reading, as well as participating in conversations around text. Comprehension strategies are routines and procedures that readers use to help them understand the meaning of text. The important pieces of comprehension strategy instruction are direct, explicit explanation of the strategy from the teacher, teacher modeling of the strategy, active student participation in practicing the strategy, and teacher feedback. Please refer to handout number 5. Again, we always want to think about how we can align instruction across the tiers for consistency of language and strategies. We need students to collect tools that can be used in core content classes as well as an intervention. Tier 1 should employ the use of comprehension strategies to include high-quality conversations around text. Tier 2 may involve pre-teaching or pre-practicing strategies that will be used in core classrooms. Tier 3 should provide more customization, time, and opportunity for students to practice and receive feedback in a smaller group. We've included 2 examples of classrooms engaging in high-quality text conversations, as well as using strategies to understand complex text. STARI stands for Strategic Adolescent Reading Intervention. STARI is also a free, evidence-based Tier 2 strategy that may be used to assist students in grades 6 through 9 who are reading at a 3rd or 4th grade level. STARI addresses deficiencies in fluency, decoding, reading stamina, and basic comprehension skills. Our Patent Literacy Initiative will be producing a quick pick on STARI as well if you are interested in more detail.
We have talked a lot about essential components of secondary literacy instruction. We must also consider motivation and student engagement when talking about secondary students. Recommendation number 4 from the IES guide states the following: increase student motivation and engagement in literacy learning. In addition, there is a moderate level of evidence for this recommendation. So you may be asking yourself, why motivation and student engagement? Correlational evidence suggests that motivation to read school-related texts declines as students progress from elementary to middle school. The strongest decline is observed among struggling students. Teachers should use strategies to enhance students' motivation to read and their engagement in the learning process. Teachers should also look to provide a supportive environment that views mistakes as growth opportunities, encourages self-determination, and provides regular informational feedback about the usefulness of reading strategies. Additionally, teachers should make literacy experiences more relevant to students' interests, everyday life, or important current events. We should underscore that both word generation and STARI were developed with these key issues in mind. So how does an educator carry out this recommendation? With respect to the first recommendation, monitor student progress over time and provide explicit feedback about their growth. When teachers set goals to reach a certain standard, students are likely to work towards meeting that goal. Goals may be set by the teacher or student or in a collaborative manner. However, if students set their own goals, they are more likely to be engaged in the process. Secondly, allow students some choice in their reading and writing activities. In addition, empower students to make decisions about topics, forms of communication, and selection of materials. This helps them to assume greater ownership and responsibility for their engagement in learning. Thirdly, look for opportunities to bridge activities outside and inside of school. Also, find out what students think is relevant and why, and use this information in planning instruction. Finally, by building in the instructional conditions outlined on the slide, several themes begin to emerge. First, connections between disciplines such as science and language arts are taught through conceptual themes. Second, connections among strategies for learning such as searching, comprehending, interpreting, composing, and teaching content knowledge. And third, connections among classroom activities that support motivation and social and cognitive development. Another consideration with regard to secondary literacy instruction is teaching across the content areas. It is critical that the responsibility for teaching literacy is shared among content area teachers. Effective content area teachers help students successfully access, read, and understand text. Each content area or discipline has specialized vocabulary and components that are unique to that discipline. Secondary students have to be explicitly taught what is unique about each content area. An important point to be made here is that the content area reading strategies should not replace explicit instruction in foundational skills for struggling readers. Both instruction in the content areas and foundational skills should be strategically planned for and conducted with struggling readers. For additional suggestions in teaching literacy in all content areas, please access our patent publication for teaching literacy in the content areas by visiting the patent website at www.patent.net or by scanning the QR code on the screen with a QR code reader. If visiting the patent website, please select Resources and then Patent Publications to search for the title of this publication, which is Teaching Literacy in the Content Areas.
For older students who continue to struggle with reading, assistive technology should be investigated as an option to support them in learning content. Available tools each work a little differently, but help by giving access to text as speech. Use of these tools helps students acquire knowledge and levels the playing field for understanding content by facilitating decoding and reading fluency. Many struggling readers do not need modifications, but rather accommodations to complete tasks to their ability. What is the goal of the lesson or task? We want to reflect and ask, am I testing their reading, decoding, and fluency, or am I testing their knowledge of content? AT can be a bridge. Directions for how to access the AT Technology Toolbelt in the Padlet will be given on the next slide.
As stated, we have created a Padlet to accompany this quick pick in order for you to be able to easily access the videos mentioned in each section. To access the Padlet, visit the link on the screen or use a QR code reader and scan the QR code. Finally, we want to take a moment to share our patent website with you. This site is a valuable resource housing a wealth of information for practitioners. Please click on Educational Initiatives and visit our multi-tiered System of Support page. We encourage you to explore the MTSS initiative page and resources, including our live binders for reading, writing, mathematics, word generation, and MTSS Bootcamp. On the screen are the two main references that we used in creation of this quick pick. We highly recommend that you download and access both documents to extend your learning around the topic of evidence-based secondary literacy practices.
We want to thank you for taking the time to watch this quick pick today and hope that you have increased your knowledge around evidence-based secondary literacy practices. Please feel free to reach out to either one of us if you have any questions or are in need of further support and resources. Our contact information is on the screen. Thank you and have a wonderful rest of your day.